I am always a sucker for a Clooney-Pitt team-up. It's no Ocean's 11, but it is a good time. Like, subscribe, comment down below, and tell a friend if you haven't. If you're new, check out the rest of the channel and let me know what you think. Let's dive into Wolves. I've been excited for this one since its initial trailer. Clooney, Pitt, yes please. Their chemistry is always electric. A narrative involving professional fixers and a mysterious setup? Absolutely. Dark comedic undertones as well? I was hooked at that point. This movie is also written and directed by Jon Watts of the Spider-Man Homecoming trilogy fame. Now, I never saw Cop Car, but I've heard a lot of good things about it. Another smaller budget film that he also wrote and directed. But I loved what he did with Spider-Man and those movies, so I was interested. But you never know with some of these MCU directors. Some of them seem to only excel when they work within the confines of that studio. But I have to say, I really enjoyed what Watts did with this movie. Now, Wolves isn't a movie that is going to be some complete, fresh new take that is going to breathe new life into this genre. There are a lot of cliches in this movie that are heavily utilized within the fixer subset. But this is one of those movies where the characters are just so enjoyable and the story is a lot of fun and it's fun enough that you're able to overlook those cliches. But I can see how some people won't like that aspect of it. The other sort of negative piece of this film is that it is very convoluted in nature, just by the many overarching plot lines that it contains. There is a lot going on, a lot of players involved, and if you aren't paying attention to every single detail, you might get confused or miss something. Even in the climax, as Pitt and Clooney's characters enjoy breakfast in a diner after a long night, they run back through the entire night to discover that they've both been set up to be cleaned, which in their line of work means killed. It's never clear why. I mean, they're both sort of grizzled old vets of their line of work, so maybe whoever employs them is just ready for new blood. I don't really know. It honestly doesn't really matter that much anyway. That being said, there is a little too much going on when they go back through what had just happened to them. Even when they parse through everything that they went through and all the crazy details, you're still kind of like, wait, what happened? Who set you guys up and why? But if you can get past those two things I just mentioned, then I think you'll have a lot of fun with this movie. Mainly due to the lovable characters. Pitt and Clooney both play professional fixers who are called in on the same job. A DA met a young boy at a hotel and there was an accident and they're brought in to clean up the mess. These two despise the fact that they have to work together and there's a lot of banter going back and forth and it's funny. Over the course of the job, they discover that the boy is still alive and he was in on a job for his friend to deliver drugs to a major drug kingpin within the city. So Clooney and Pitt help this kid complete his job all before they decide they're going to have to kill him to tie up loose ends and complete their job. But along the way, they all three gain respect for each other and end up bonding over many different things. I should mention Austin Abrams is also incredible in this movie, who plays the kid that's involved. He is so funny. Him, Pitt, and Clooney just bounce off of each other so seamlessly. Every scene they're in together, which is a lot from about the 15-minute mark on, is electric and just super, super humorous. The other thing I didn't quite expect was for this movie to hit me in the heart in the final act. While stopped at a diner, Pitt and Clooney discuss having to kill the kid after they help him deliver the drugs. Pitt's character gets quite vulnerable as he notices Clooney has never had to do something like this before, but he has, and he knows how horrible it feels afterward. And he knows the guilt that comes along with it. So he tells him that they'll do it together to hopefully feel less of the burden. Then when the time comes, they both can't commit to the job and they just take the kid home and eat breakfast with his dad. It's quite funny. It's just a nice little touch to add some humanity to these characters that, there's kind of this aura around people in this line of work. In movies, they're just seen as these cold, calculated, just ruthless killers. Now, there is sort of a slight issue with the tone of this movie, just a few portions throughout. For instance, the climax. There is a sense of deep believability throughout many of the scenes in this movie as Clooney and Pitt navigate this job in a very secretive, detailed, meticulous, and convincing manner. But then at some points, the film tends to get a bit ridiculous, like when the kid leads them on a car chase across town, leading all three to be witnessed by a swath of halted traffic on an NYC inner belt. Then, even in the climax, their boss sends an entire hit squad in broad daylight in front of a restaurant to take out Pitt and Clooney. There's just a few times throughout the movie that it just sort of loses its way and doesn't know what it wants to be, if it wants to be super realistic, but in other points it just gets ridiculously out of control to the point where you're just like, okay, this tone doesn't quite mesh throughout this entire film. But all in all, this movie is fun. It's pretty comedic, and the characters are so relatable and enjoyable that that's where it really shines. It's not anything you haven't seen before, but if you enjoy Pitt and Clooney working together, which I do, I mean, admittedly, Pitt is my favorite actor, so this review is definitely biased, just FYI. But if you enjoy those two and enjoy this genre and, just crime thrillers in general, along with some very good direction, and I didn't even mention, there is some pretty good cinematography in this movie. Some shots are just ridiculously gorgeous. But if you enjoy all that, then I think you will have a really good time with Wolves.